You know, every once in a while, you happen across a person or a group of people that are just extra special. And I'm very happy and thankful to be a part of MetroCast Channel 10 because I get to take these people and share them with all of our viewers. With me right now is one of these very special people and special animals. This is Ron Wexler. Ron, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Now, you are the director, let me get this right, the Orphaned Wildlife Rescue Center.
Correct.
The only one of its kind in our area.
Yes.
Now, you're located in Lusby, and we've spent the last hour or so before going on camera walking around and seeing this incredible facility that you have. You don't just have a couple of cages and take animals off the side of the road. You really have a very fully functioning wildlife rescue center. It's very special and unique in Maryland. So
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the center itself?
We opened up here about a little over 20 years ago. And Chesapeake Wildlife Sanctuary in Bowie, Maryland was closing down. And when they did close down, people were leaving boxes of animals on their doorstep. So we started picking those up because they were just dying up there. So that's how we kind of got started. It was kind of forced and imposed. Been an animal lover since I was a child, and they seemed to all like me, so I'm lucky that way.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of different animals now. You're holding, this is a wild possum, right?
This is a wild one,
This is not a domesticated or a pet.
Not at all, so that's why it's not near my face.
Yeah, that's why he's holding.
But it's near you.
Tell us a little bit about this possum. We can talk about some of the animals, but let's talk about this one specifically.
Okay. Well, this one came in, it was chewed up by a dog.
Oh.
And had some bad injuries. Its neck had to be sewn up, and it had surgery on its left eye. And it had surgery on its backside because the dog got its backside. And he's recovering very well, but he'll be here probably over winter because he's too young to let go.
Okay.
We don't let him go till they're about 2 pounds, 3 pounds.
Okay.
So the predators don't get him. And he's totally wild. He's just young, and he hasn't learned to fear man or predators yet. But
now, you said he had to have surgery because he'd gotten chewed up by a dog. You actually can perform surgeries here. You have several vets in the area that come and help out, but your whole system here is set up where you can perform surgeries and house the animals and care for them and take care of them till they're ready to go, right?
Yep, we keep them here and then we release them all back in the wild, with the exception of those laying in the middle of the highway. When we get them, we put them back where they came from.
Okay.
And they're all released back in the wild. There's a very few animals that we do find places like nature centers will take them as educational animals, then they get certified as an educational animal.
Okay.
And then they live there, and so we don't have to put them down.
Oh, that's
We're
great.
basically try our best to be a no-kill facility, but there's occasions when we have turtles that come in, their heads are run over, and they haven't decided that it's time to die. Their metabolism's so slow, and there's no hope for them. I mean, with a crushed head, but they're still alive for a few hours that way. So we put them under anesthesia and then euthanize them when they're asleep, so they don't feel anything. So it's totally painless, but
still hard.
it's tough. Yeah, we don't like to kill anything. You know, when you're trying to save these guys, you don't have to kill anything.
Okay. Now, right now, you have, how many possums do you think you have in your facility right now?
Between indoors and outdoors, there's probably about 15 of them here.
That's what I thought. And you have hedgehogs, or groundhogs,
We have
right?
groundhogs. A bunch of those around,
yeah. And turtles.
Many turtles. We do a lot of turtle reconstruction surgeries here.
Really, because there's so many roads.
Yep. Yeah, and every time it rains, turtles, especially box turtles, go out and then forage. That's when all the bugs and the worms come out of the ground. And every time it rains, the next day you'll see turtles all over the road. They're just foraging for food.
Oh.
So then,
now, I know you have a website, and we're going to put that information on the screen so that people can get in touch with you. But also, another reason, the stories are wonderful, and I love what you do with animals, but really a big focus of what we wanted to talk about today is that there are very few federal or even state grants to help your facility survive. And
yeah, there are none.
None?
None at all.
Okay, so less than few.
Less than few.
And so you really survive off of donations from the public and whatever Veterinarian Services can offer, right?
Our vets do work for us, and usually what we do is we'll offer a vet, I'm getting squirmy here, offer a vet, ask them to do 10 or 12 cases a year, and we pay it, and then usually after they get to know us, they'll do more cases.
Okay.
It helps a great deal. And then eventually most of them have stopped charging us, which I shouldn't say too loud, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, well,
and they've helped out. They fall in love with the animals too. And
to give people kind of a bird's eye snapshot, everybody knows the hurricane. We all went through the hurricane. Over the course, when the hurricane was over and went through, you said you took care of how many animals?
A little over 300 as a result of the hurricane.
Because they were displaced or homeless or
trees
hurt?
down, mostly trees down, and squirrels, lots of squirrels, and a little bit of everything, but mostly squirrels.
Okay. Do you need to put your little friend back in her?
I was going to hand him to you.
Oh, no, I'm good, really. Thank you.
He seems to want to go that way. So.
Yes, I'm sure I smell lovely. Yeah, he's very sweet. So over 300 animals or so that you help take care of, and that's just over the course of the hurricane. How many animals do you think you rescue and take care of throughout a year? Let's just say an average year.
Primarily rescue facility. We rehab some animals, not maybe a couple hundred, 200 or 300 rehabs a year here, but we do mostly rescue.
Okay, what does that mean? What's
rehab? The difference between rescue is if people call in, you have an animal that's injured.
Okay.
It could be a possum or a raccoon stuck in a trash bin, one of the big trash carriers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and some predicament like a window well, the basement, they'll fall in, the mother will fall in, the raccoon or a possum can't get out. And we do the rescues like that, or an attic, could be anything. Boats down at the marinas, raccoons will build nests in boats and we get them down there and move them out and that kind of thing.
Oh, and you're known throughout the state because you've gotten calls as far north. Let's talk about the horse and the goat story.
Okay, well, a lot of the state police and county police will help out, and animal control help us transport animals and help us stay in contact with emergency calls. And until the tree from the storm hit the roof, it took out our communications tower. But we used to have a lot better communications. It's getting back together. But it's going to take another month or so. But I got a call one day. It was early in the morning. Somebody called and said we had a goat, a horse, and a dog in the middle of Route 4 running around, and they had a traffic jam and all this kind of stuff. And it sounded like a bar joke, basically.
You're right.
And I said, "Did you hear that one?" So I kind of ignored it, and after I got 4 or 5 calls, finally one of the state police officers called that I knew, and it was a real story. So I had to go up, and they escorted me up into up towards Bowie, Maryland, and Upper Marlboro, and I basically got a little rope around the goat's neck, and the horse and the dog followed, and they had just gotten out of somebody's farm.
Okay, good.
But it was like an 8-hour traffic jam. It was a mess. So.
Well, see, that's one of the things I love about our community, because the reason it was a traffic jam is because people in our community, by and large, are kind, and they'll stop. They'll pull over on the side of the road. I don't know how many times I've been behind a lady who was hunched down chasing a turtle across the road, or a duck, or what have you, and people stop. So that's the good news.
Yeah, I do that myself. So
I can see that. Let's talk a little bit about how the community can help you, because you are always in need of volunteers and, of course, donations. Yeah. So let's talk about that. What would a volunteer do for you? We
ask volunteers to come in. Work a regular schedule, like 4-hour blocks of time, at least one day a week on a routine schedule. It's too hard to schedule people otherwise, and too much training time and so forth. So they'd come in and they'd help feed baby animals in the spring. Some of them fall in love with it, then want to get their state permits and federal permits, and then we help them along with that.
Great.
And then they can take them home after the first year of training. The rehab license takes 2 years in the state of Maryland. After 1 year, you're an intern. You're in full internship after 1 year, and you can take animals home. Okay. And for all the people that do that, we provide medical support and pharmaceuticals and basic infant formula, things like that. So, because it can get expensive. Absolutely. Speaking of expensive, one of the things that we looked at is you have a very extensive library on wildlife animals, because what were you saying about Maryland and wildlife as far as the veterinarian services? There's not specifically a veterinarian program right now. There's not really a veterinarian license program. There's no licensed veterinarians for wildlife specifically. Out west in California and so forth, there are wildlife veterinarians, pretty common, but in the east you don't see much of that. Okay. But you have this library of books, thousands of dollars worth of new books. You said they're 3 years old or newer. Less. See, that's great. So very cutting edge. So when some of the different vets will call in, or other rehabbers will call in, need information on what medication to give what animal. Some medications you give one animal, it works. Others, they can't handle it. Sure. It's like ophthalmic ointment with dexamethasone. If you put it on a rodent, they go blind. And a lot of people just don't know that. So it's a lot of good volumes of information on what meds and what diets and so forth. That's great. Surgical techniques for the vets, they'll call in, and it's step by step. And we'll either fax it to them or, whatever fashion we can, get it to them so they can, when they're working on something, we can talk them through. Awesome. And then we have 9 vets who volunteer on a routine basis. We have 6 on our board who all work with the animals and offer consultation to other vets to try to get more involved. Oh, this little guy's doing pretty good.
He is. He's loving the attention.
Yeah,
he may
apparently.
be wild, but he says, this
he's
feels
usually
good.
not this calm.
Well, you know what I always say?
He likes your perfume. That's what it is.
Yay. I always say you can tell a lot about people by how they treat animals and salespeople.
And salespeople.
A lot of people say animals and kids, but animals and salespeople, you can tell a lot about a person. We did talk about volunteers, but let's talk about donations. You subsist. Your subsistence is completely on donations.
Yeah, there's no state or federal or county or any kind of funding of any kind. We did get a small grant from the Snyder Foundation, Constellation Energy.
Okay.
And those are for pharmaceuticals to help support all these different vet expenses. And it's nice enough that a lot of the vets work with their animals at no charge, but we don't like them losing money on top of it.
Right.
So we are setting up, in the process of setting up pharmacies at a bunch of different vets now, so the wildlife rehabbers can go in there and not have to spend money on the pharmaceuticals, plus the vets will see the animals and provide pharmaceuticals without charge.
You don't just have your own pond of care. You have this whole ripple thing going on, don't you?
We're trying to get it out, going statewide, county by county, but it's taken a while, but it's getting there.
Well, we'll keep getting the word out. I know you were featured on NBC4 a couple of times, and a lot of people in this area that have heard about you, but we'll keep getting the word out so people will know about it, because it's a really excellent cause. Before we let you go, because it's always best tug at heartstrings, is there an animal rescue that stands out in your mind? And I know you've done hundreds and hundreds. Is there a certain time period, an animal that just has stayed with you over the years?
There's bunches of them.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be a really hard question.
That's a tough question. That's really a tough question.
Yeah, because you pretty much love them all.
I've done it for
From the
a long
reptiles
time. I've done it since I was a kid. So.
The possums, deer.
Yeah.
You've rescued deer in the past, and all kinds.
All
of
species. We've even done surgery on mice, frogs. There's an X-ray of a toad in there with a bone pin in its leg. So.
Oh, that reminds me. I know what a great story is, because you've done the X-rays and repair and surgery and what have you. Turtles. We were looking at a couple of the turtles that you had, and one had been run over by a car, and its shell was crushed. Now, correct me. A shell can regenerate itself to a degree. It can close the plates.
To a degree, but yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can reconstruct.
Yeah, we put them back
pieces,
together.
right?
Yeah, we basically it's very mechanical. It's fairly simple surgery, but it's extensive time-wise. It's 6, 7, 8 hours, and it's usually 3 or 4 of those surgeries to finish one. If they don't have internal injuries that you have to take care of first, and broken legs and so forth, and the plastron will slap shut and sometimes catch them in their legs or catch their face, or their back legs will get pinched, so they need bone pins. But we pin the shells back together, and in the last 5-6 years we're using graphite pins, and they just stay in, and they're hollow pins that are driven in through holes that we drill. They're under anesthesia, of course, and they can be released in 4 or 5 weeks. In years past, it took a year for them to really heal well, so we don't have to keep them so long.
That's amazing.
And we do hundreds of them. So.
Well, kind of in layman's terms, because, you are obviously the expert. The turtle we were looking at, the top part of the shell by its head was missing a big hunk, so when the turtle withdrew its head, it has no way of protecting its head, and so if a predator came and that turtle would be history.
Right.
And when it finishes healing, because it looked like that turtle really had a rough day.
Yeah, he got run over pretty bad.
Yeah, it looked like it. And so you'll reconstruct that top part so he can pull his little head back in and protect himself the way nature intended it.
Yeah, we'll run stainless steel surgical wire back and forth across that opening, and then fill it. The shell's healed around the edges because he came in that way, and then we'll fill the rest of it up with, it's basically JB Weld, like epoxy, but the JB Weld has stainless steel metal particles in the resins, and of course they stay sterile and they don't rust and contaminate. And it'll be a light to medium gray putty texture when we put it together, and it'll be great.
You're going to give him racing stripes?
No stripes. No.
Because he has to go back in nature,
sometimes they give him a paint job. But,
okay, yeah, because they have to go back in nature, and you don't want to.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that
go
makes
back and
good
do their
sense.
thing, and they might scare their mates away. I don't know.
Well, we wouldn't want that. Okay, all right, we'll try.
Well, he's a sweetie.
He is
Like
sweet.
I say, he's wild, but he's not to make you nervous. But
Yeah. But he's been really enjoying this attention. He likes
He's never been held like this, so this is kind of unusual.
And did we talk about why he's here? What happened to him?
A dog got him.
That's
Yeah,
right,
we did.
the dog
yeah,
got
dog
him.
chewed him up pretty bad.
Oh, that's right. And you've done quite a bit of surgery on him.
We have a great surgeon, Ann White. She's on our board. She's an ophthalmologist who's actually transplanted lenses on some of these little guys.
Transplant a lens on an animal?
Oh yeah, she's done.
Really?
She's done funds and she's done bowels and so forth.
Oh my goodness!
Where are we going, bud? Where are we going?
Wow, you have a great job.
Oh,
I'm sure it's as heartbreaking as it is thrilling, but
yeah,
it's a great job.
It's a lot of work. So
I'm sure because you have cameras, so the animals that are outside you can
we have
monitor them.
The surveillance cameras, so we can see in here at night.
Right, that's great. So it's not a 9-to-5 job, is it?
No. All our volunteers can tell you that. They come in for their stints, but it's 24 hours a day.
Wonderful.
So, and the babies in the spring the mammals have to be fed 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So every 2 or 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours if we're lucky. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
You smell good.
I don't know what he's doing. He's not sure.
Well, volunteers always needed.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, and you have some interns from some of the vet schools too, right?
Yeah, a number of veterinary schools.
Okay.
We have interns come in for the summer, and they get 12 to 15 credit hours.
Great.
We're certified by the schools to provide, they get full credit. Their mom and dad still has to pay tuition, the tuition for the summer.
Yeah,
but
still hands-on.
But they get hands-on experience, and they get to travel around to our different vets and spend time there, and they learn a whole lot more hands-on, for instance, in the summer than they probably learn, through their schooling days.
Absolutely.
So,
there's books and then there's real life. So.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing to handle all these little guys.
The other thing you do is people can make an appointment with you, right, to come and see your facility if they'd like to learn more about you. And
mostly as adults, but because some of the state regulations, we're not allowed to have a bunch of children running around because of the animals, and they're wild. He's a wild. This one is a wild one. He's getting antsy now, but yeah, it's out of say 100 people that come in with the animals, maybe 3 or 4 will make a donation.
Okay.
So it's a tough situation that way.
Yeah.
So we'd like to grow more and have better facilities, but it's tough because of that. But keeps my retirement going.
You're the busiest retired person I think I've ever met. Well, thank you for joining us on the program and just sharing your life and opening, your facility and your heart basically. So it's great.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, remember, volunteers always important and donations really important. You know how life is, and what a wonderful place to give your money to. Ron Wexler, the director of the Orphaned Wildlife Rescue Center. We'll see you next time. You're watching MetroCast Channel 10.